Hey, Midnight. How's it going?
It's good. It's one of those days where I'm like just proud to say that it's going good. You know,
Nice.
it's not always going good during the pandemic, but
Yeah. But the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day.
yeah, sun is shining, getting some stuff done, get to chat with you.
Yay. So we've got some people rolling in here, so I thought I'd do a little introduction. So hello to everyone who's joining us. My name is Alex Rand. I'm the producer of artistic programs at Luminato, and I'm here to talk about a new project that we've launched today called Desire Paths. But before I do, I just want to acknowledge that Midnight and I we're chatting in the ether right now through Instagram, but we're both based in Toronto or Takaranto, or the dish with one spoon territory, which is home to the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas and the New Credit. So I just want to say thank you to them for letting us be guests of the land and for everything that we do and create here in beautiful Takaranto. Yay. Like I said, I'm Alex Rand. I work at Luminato. I am the producer of our new podcast experience called Desire Paths, where we ask artists to imagine the futures of the city of Toronto. And I'm gathered here with my new friend, Midnight Wolverine, who's the artist on our first episode, which is launched today. So Midnight, I thought, welcome. And I'd love you could sort of introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are and your work, and what's exciting you in the world today.
Totally. Yeah. So Planetea, Sitsi Midnight Soulier, or Tantra Soulier. My performer name is Midnight Wolverine. I also go by MX Wolverine. I kind of shift between those two names. I identify as a tease, a trickster, and a shapeshifter. And those labels, I guess, kind of guide the performance art and work that I do. So I'm an Indigiqueer drag and burlesque performer here in Toronto and across Ontario, and now that things are virtual across what is so-called Canada. I'm also a writer, a poet, a public speaker, a facilitator. I wear many hats. But yeah, I'm here representing the performance art, and I guess the poetry hat that I wear through Desire Paths. Right. And as an Indigenous and queer body and person, there's so much that I have to imagine when it comes to the future of the city and you know, just the future in general. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. So just to give a little context, when I wrote to you back in November, I don't actually remember when it was, we had never met. So it was a bit of a cold email. And I sort of said that we were a fan of your work and we were interested in exploring this idea of the futures of the city with you. What was going through your mind as you started to think about the future of this city?
What was going through my mind? I think what was going through my mind was it can sometimes be so hard to imagine a future when you already feel like you don't exist in the present. I think was a big thing running through my mind. And I think that as Indigenous folks, and especially queer Indigenous folks, it can be really hard to imagine a future that is, you know, made for us, because so many queer Indigenous folks today are really struggling in this world, and again in so-called Canada. And so I was excited, I think, to imagine a world where queer Indigenous bodies and people can exist in their wholehearted selves, in their, I guess, freedom to be. But that was definitely the initial thought is you know, how do we imagine futures when the present already feels pretty bleak for a lot of folks? And I think through the art that I do, I'm trying to make the present feel a little less bleak. I think I'm trying to bring advocacy and voice and representation and visibility to queer Indigenous folks, but also I think centered in a lot of my performance art is like queer Indigenous joy and queer Indigenous sexuality, which does exist. It just isn't at the forefront. And so I try to bring that out through the work that I do. And so it was just kind of running with that and imagining a world where all of that can exist.
Oh, I love that. And that it totally comes out in the episode too, which is amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's such a great, sorry, I love the episode. So I'm just like so happy with where it came from and where it ended up going. So in the episode, we ask you to think about 3 different spaces in the city that you can imagine yourself in the future and what that looks like. And obviously folks can listen to the episode to kind of get a deeper sense. But I'm just wondering if you could share maybe one of those locations and kind of what drew you to that spot and what have you been maybe thinking about since we did the recording back in December, maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, totally. So the 3 places that we visited in the episode were the Humber River, Yonge and Dundas Square, and Gladday Bookshop, which all have significance to me in some way. I guess the one I want to chat about, I think, is the Humber River, because especially during this pandemic year, it's been a place that I've accessed personally. And that specific area, that specific place has aided in me being able to continue on with this shit show that is, 2020 and moving into 2021. And I think a lot of folks in Toronto aren't always familiar with the green spaces and park spaces that exist in the city. And I've, taken so many people to the Humber River that hadn't been there before, even though they've been living in Toronto for so long. And it's so interesting to me that even though you live in the city, these places aren't being accessed. And what's interesting about the Humber River is this dichotomy of like history of the land and significance of the land and development. Like high-end development, because that area is populated with a lot of very large, wealthy neighborhoods and homes. And so it is a really interesting dichotomy. But that place in general along the Humber is a place of like peace and reconnection for myself. And so that was one of the places that I chose to talk about.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing. So one of the things that you created for the episode, which I love, is this is a poem that you bring and it kind of weaves through the different locations. And I wonder if you could maybe just share a bit about your process in terms of writing that and how that kind of came into being, as much as you'd like to share.
I love poetry. I love writing. I love spoken word. And so it just felt natural that we like weaved a poetry piece throughout the audio experience to kind of, I guess, summarize a lot of the things that I, myself, and Matthew talked about. Because a lot of different themes, I think, came up in the different places that we visited. And so my process for that was to, I guess for folks, how this journey worked is we actually physically visited these places in Toronto and spent time in each area and chatted about, the feelings, the sights, the smells with each specific place. And then after that day of visiting all of these places, I took some time to just kind of like let it all soak in. There's a lot of amazing like dialogue that myself and Hema had. And then afterwards, it was just kind of sitting and I had jotted down kind of the things that had stood out for me. As well, Macy kind of aided in this process, which was great. So we picked out some things that really kind of stood out and felt like I wanted to expand on in an artistic way. And then the piece kind of just came out very naturally. It came out in kind of 3 segments as opposed to what feels like one cohesive spoken word poem, which was what I originally intended. But I think this was just the way it was meant to be, because each place brought up so many different things. And so it was kind of being able to do justice, I guess, what came up in each visit. And I really love how the poetry piece came came out. I really love how it weaves together, I guess, the story, so to speak, of the audio experience of the podcast. And I think it adds just a layer of something that feels kind of genuine and authentic to me.
Nice. I just want to do a little shout out to Macy Sue and the From Later team who just joined us on this IG Live. So hi guys, thanks so much for helping us. Amazing podcast. Okay, I'm going to do a quick question about the future for you, Midnight. So it's sometime this year, at the end of 2021, everyone's been vaccinated. What is the first thing that you're going to do? What are you missing right now?
As you can see by the glitter on my face, I miss my glitter community. I miss going to shows and existing in queer spaces with like other queer bodies and the energy and the glitter, and like I miss hugging people I like miss and care about. So I hope that as soon as we're all vaccinated and things open up, that I can like run to a show and see everyone that I've been missing this past year, and then give them big hugs and let my glitter beard shed all over them.
Shake it all over them.
Yeah, just shake it all over them.
Yeah, amazing.
But I miss live shows so much, and I miss performing on stage.
Mm-hmm. Soon.
Yeah, so wear your masks.
Exactly. And what's is there anything kind of creatively cooking for you at the moment? Like, are you thinking about anything? Do you want to write? Do you want to perform?
Oh man, I feel like I'm always just like creatively, like there's always something simmering, whether or not it like comes to a full boil, there's always kind of a simmer. I'm definitely working on a few projects, a few writing projects. I'm actually working on a children's book. And I'm working on, I'm like putting it out into the universe right now, a piece of mainstream content. Is kind of all I'll say about that. But I do have some exciting stuff in the works, and hopefully in a few months or in a year, we can see them come to fruition.
Amazing. I love it. Okay, I think maybe I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us today. That was really awesome. For the folks who are watching, this is Midnight Wolverine, or MX Wolverine, and we've been talking about a new podcast audio docuseries that Luminato's put out today called Desire Paths, where we ask artists to imagine the futures of the city of Toronto. It's produced by myself and co-curated with Hema Batavia, and it's produced with the awesome team from Later, a strategic foresight studio here, which is Macy Sue, Rob Bolton, and Jeremy Glynn. Thank you to them.
Yes.
New episode every month. It's out on Spotify today. Have a listen while you walk and daydream around the city.
Yeah, it's soul quenching.
Yeah.
It's like fulfilling. It's creative.
Favorite.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Midnight, for joining us. This has been fun.
Okay, Masicha. Thanks so much, Alex.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone.